was supposed to testify never ended up showing up. So my dad got off.
Oh,
So he got back. We ended up moving into a nicer house, but it was on Joy Road Evergreen, which is the hood. We ended up moving there, and I really like turned my shit together. Like I stopped smoking. I stopped hanging out with like the people I was hanging out with, and I really started focusing. The first year I started focusing, I met this guy named Mike Confletti. I'll never forget him. He is a wrestling coach, but he came from a different school. He came from Troy, which is like a white school. So Michigan is very separated.
Yeah.
Michigan is, I went to a school with 98% black people.
Wow.
We had 2 white kids, and they both hung out with each other. No exaggeration. No exaggeration. No exaggeration.
I thought you weren't coming to school today.
No exaggeration. So he came from a school where it was all white kids.
Yeah.
And in Michigan is a very high wrestling school. So we were known as the black school. The black school don't go nowhere. They don't go to states. They don't go to regionals. We never had anybody make it to. We had 2 people make it to states before me, and it was in like the 1990s.
Dang.
So
First
before
of all,
that,
the 1990s, like it was old, really hurt.
the
my soul.
19th
He's like,
century,
way back in the 1990s.
1900s.
I was like, so when I was in school, when I was in high school. Okay.
Yeah, but all the
Keep going, Keith. It's fine.
all the way back in
Some of us
1990s.
were already in high school in the 1990s.
Right.
But yeah, so it wasn't known for kids from my school to go to states.
Yeah.
But he came in, he changed the complete culture. He saw me and he saw my friend Davion, and he was like, "I'm taking y'all to states." That's the first thing he said when he saw us. And I'm like, "Who you taking? Who to states? We ain't going to the states with them white folks." Like it's like some old slave boy. I'm like, I can't compete with them white boys.
Right.
But he believed in us. He believed in us. He took us under his wing. We ended up going to Virginia Beach, was like a wrestling camp during the summer. And my entire life changed. I saw things I never saw before. I was hanging out with people I never thought I would hang out with.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can do this.
Yep.
So my senior year, I ended up getting I had a 3.6.
Come on, Keith.
You better go.
I had a
on,
3.6.
Keith.
You added 3
Let
holes
your
to that
big
point 6.
Huh?
3 fulls to that point
Yes.
6.
So I had a-
Man.
So I had a 3.6. I went to states. Because again, he believed in me. I started believing in me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is something that I can do.
Yeah.
I ended up going to states, and again, my life we was at the Palace Auburn Hills, which is basically like the T-Mobile Arena.
Malice in the Palace.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Palace is huge.
Yeah.
The Palace is huge, and I was on the floor. On the
Yeah.
floor, we was in a parade. I'm looking at my parents in the stage, looking at my brother in the stage. I mean, in a stadium, like the what'd you call it?
The
Stands?
The stands. I
Yep.
said stage, my dumb ass. But yeah, they was in the stands. And I just was like, oh, I can actually be somebody.
Yep.
For the first time in my life, God damn, I'm getting choked up. For the first time in my life, I was like, oh, I can actually be worthy of something.
Yeah.
Because up to that point, I never thought that was like in a reality.
Yeah.
So I went to States. I was 17. Right after that, I tried to commit suicide.
Oh.
Yeah. God damn it, I'm getting choked up.
It's okay.
Feel them feelings.
So me and my dad, our relationship was still rocky, and it was one of those things where I was like, I've made it. I'm doing everything that you've always wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I'm doing well in school. I'm not smoking no more. I'm not hanging out with the people you didn't want me to hang out with. I went to states. I was like, oh, I made it in life.
Yeah.
But he still saw me as like the fuck up Keith.
Right.
Like, I know you're doing well now, but what happens when you're not doing well, basically? So we ended up getting into it real bad one day. I went in the backyard. I told the story on TikTok, but I never
we
went
saw.
in detail.
Yeah.
I won't go full detail, but I went in the backyard and I had a bunch of neckties, old neckties that he had like a collection of. And I tied him up. He had like a patio he had built that was attached to the garage. It was like 2 wood planks that went up, and it was a wood plank that went across. I grabbed the cooler. I jumped on top of the cooler, tied the ties up, tied it around my neck, and I jumped off. He walked outside, and he thought I was playing. But at this point, I was completely losing oxygen.